Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if everything you believe about intelligence is wrong? Not slightly wrong, completely wrong. We grew up being told that smart people know more. They answer faster, they score higher, they never hesitate. But here's what the research actually shows. Psychologist David Dunning, the man behind the famous Dunning-Kruger Effect, found something that should stop you cold. The people who spoke with the most confidence were consistently the ones who understood the least, and the people who hesitated, who said, "I am not entirely sure about that," those were the ones who actually knew what they were talking about. Real intelligence does not look the way we think it does. The behaviors that separate genuinely sharp minds from everyone else are not about what they do. They're about what they absolutely refuse to do. 5 things. 5 quiet refusals. And number 5 is something you almost certainly did today without ever realizing how badly it is holding you back. Stay with me. This one is going to land differently than you expect. Chapter 1. They never pretend to know. Here's a scene that plays out 1,000 times a day. Someone asks a question. The room goes quiet. And rather than say, "I do not know," someone starts talking confidently about something they barely understand. We've all done it. Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, had one personal rule. If he could not explain a concept simply enough for a beginner, he assumed he didn't actually understand it yet. Not that the topic was hard, that he wasn't there yet. When a highly intelligent person cannot answer something, they say something most people find almost impossible. "I am not sure. Let me find out." And every time they do speak with real confidence, people believe them because they only claim what they can actually back up. Ask yourself honestly, when did you last say, "I do not know," without any discomfort attached to it? Because we're not talking about being smart here, we're talking about being honest. And that distinction is going to follow us through every point on this list. Chapter 2. They never argue to win. Think about the last real argument you were in. What were you actually fighting for in that moment? The truth or the feeling of winning? Psychologist Jonathan Haidt at New York University found that human beings almost never reason their way to a conclusion. We reach a conclusion first, emotionally, instantly, and then we use logic to defend it. The reasoning comes after the verdict. We're not thinking, we're justifying. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's lifelong business partner, had a practice before any major disagreement. He would first write out the opposing argument in full, as if he believed it himself. Only then would he respond. He called it steel manning, building the strongest possible version of the other side before you tear it down. Most people do the opposite. They build the weakest version so it's easier to demolish, and then they feel smart for winning. But they haven't found truth, they've just found comfort. And those are very different things. Chapter 3. They never let emotions make permanent decisions. Thomas Jefferson had a rule. When he felt angry, he counted to 10 before saying a single word. When the anger was serious, he counted to 100. This is the man who drafted a document that reshaped civilization, and his secret weapon was a pause. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio studied patients with damage to the emotional centers of the brain. You might expect them to become more rational, more decisive. The opposite happened. They became completely unable to make decisions at all. Emotions are not the enemy of good thinking. They are the foundation of it. But here's what intelligent people understand. Feeling something and acting on it are 2 separate events. When they're furious, they don't send that message. When they are flooded with excitement, they don't commit before sleeping on it. When they're in the lowest valley, they don't restructure their entire life at 2 in the morning. They ask one question before every significant decision. Will I feel exactly the same way about this in 6 months? If the answer is probably not, they wait. There's a line between honoring your emotions and being ruled by them. Intelligent people live on the right side of that line every single day. Chapter 4. They never surround themselves with yes people. Your brain is biologically wired to seek agreement. When someone validates what you already believe, it registers as reward, as rightness. And over time, most people build their entire social world to maximize that feeling. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt at New York University found that when people only engage with those who already agree with them, their views don't just stay the same, they become more extreme, more rigid, less capable of handling new information. The echo chamber doesn't just stop growth, it actively reverses it. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, built one of the most successful investment firms in history around one principle: radical transparency. Any employee at any level could challenge any decision, including his own. He understood something most leaders never accept. Your worst ideas feel identical to your best ideas until someone genuinely honest pushes back on them. You can't tell the difference from inside your own head. Intelligent people are not trying to feel smart. They're trying to become smarter. And those two things require different environments. Chapter 5. They never confuse busyness with progress. How many hours this week did you spend feeling productive while actually moving nothing forward? We've built an entire culture around the performance of effort. Exhaustion has become a status symbol. Cal Newport at Georgetown University found that the average professional today produces fewer than 3 hours of genuinely focused work per day. Everything else, the meetings, the emails, the constant motion, is theater. Peter Drucker drew a line that has never stopped being true. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. Intelligent people stop before they optimize anything and ask one prior question: is what I'm about to work on actually worth doing? If the answer is not clearly yes, the answer is no. Warren Buffett keeps most of his calendar completely empty, not because he has nothing to do, because thinking is his most valuable work, and thinking cannot happen in a schedule already filled by someone else's priorities. The question is not whether you can be more efficient. The question is whether what you're being efficient at actually matters. Closing. Every single thing on this list, the intellectual humility, the refusal to fight for ego, the emotional pause, the discomfort seeking, the ruthless prioritization, none of it is about appearing intelligent. All of it is about being honest. Honest about what you know and what you don't. Honest about whether you're arguing for truth or for your own comfort. Honest about whether your feelings are information or just noise. Honest about whether your days are producing anything real or just the feeling of motion. Most people never do this work, not because they can't, because no one ever told them this is what real intelligence actually looks like. It shows up in the argument you chose not to have, in the decision you didn't make at the wrong moment, in the afternoon you left empty so you could actually think. Nobody sees those choices, nobody applauds them, but over years, those invisible choices are the difference between someone who is genuinely growing and someone who is just getting older. You already know which of these 5 is the one you need to work on. You knew it somewhere in the middle of this video before I even asked. That knowing is the beginning. What you do with it is the rest.